Can you take a moment today and leave a rating and review for Marijuana Today Daily on iTunes? It goes a long way in helping us grow our audience, as Apple puts a lot of stock in those ratings and reviews when deciding when to show a new podcast to someone through iTunes. Just open up iTunes, search for the term marijuana to find this podcast, and leave a rating and review. Thanks so much. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Monday, July 10th, 2017, and you're tuned in to episode 284 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Our top story of the day and the week swings us out to Nevada, where a week of robust sales of adult use marijuana by licensed medical marijuana dispensaries is starting to drain the existing inventory of those shops, even as any hopes of being restocked lie tangled up in a lawsuit filed by the state's liquor distributors. This is a story we've been covering for a while now, as the state's liquor distributors, holders of an 18-month monopoly on distributing adult use marijuana that starts up in January, sued the state to block non-liquor distributors from getting in on the marijuana distribution game during this early Head Start phase where licensed medical shops can sell to adult use customers. The big problem with the whole situation is that so far no liquor distributor has actually jumped through all the hoops to become licensed movers of cannabis. So currently there's no legal way for Nevada's medical marijuana shops to re-up their inventory, medical or adult use. As the Reno Gazette-Journal is reporting, though, there's hope on the horizon in the form of a so-called statement of emergency issued last week by state tax officials and backed up on Friday by Governor Brian Sandoval that would allow Nevada to consider the adoption of emergency rules that would clear the distribution roadblock. The Nevada Tax Commission will vote on the idea on Thursday, so we'll check back at the end of the week to see how that lands. The state of Massachusetts has a working and passed budget in place as lawmakers approved a $40.2 billion budget package on Friday that will, among other things, clear the way for legislators to finish up work on merging two disparate versions of adult use marijuana legislation passed by the State House and Senate in recent weeks. Last week, work was halted on the legislative merging process as House Speaker Robert DeLeo suspended the work of the Cannabis Conference Committee to allow for full focus on bringing in a state budget. This is another story we'll be tracking as it develops in the coming days. Our final top story of the day is one of those stories that appears to be fairly lightweight in significance, but that actually teases at a larger hidden impact. Leafly is reporting that it's now possible to buy a heated rosin press on Walmart.com. For those unfamiliar with the technology, a rosin press is basically a small heated hydraulic press that you can put raw cannabis into to literally squish out concentrates and extracts without using any kind of chemical solvent. While the rosin press isn't available on any actual Walmart shelves, and it's entirely possible that it'll get pulled due to some media attention, it remains a nice bleeding edge indicator for how legal marijuana is starting to creep into our contemporary conventional milieu. Leafly is reporting that they actually went ahead and ordered one of the Walmart rosin presses and will be publishing an update on the whole thing once their package is delivered later this month. Swing over to Leafly to read more and to find a link to Walmart's rosin press yourself. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz it on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, MJ Today Media, publishers of this podcast, our weekly show Marijuana Today, and the popular MJ Today Media newsfeed email newsletter. If you need the best news and headlines in the business of legal marijuana, then look no further than all the things we make here at MJ Today Media. And if you're an advertiser looking for a platform to reach the best audience in the business, you've come to the right place, because our listeners are highly educated, high earners who are likely to either be in the legal marijuana industry or who are actively working to get in. We have dispensary owners and industry investors, cannabis entrepreneurs, and C-level marijuana executives listening to our show and reading our newsletters. If you need to reach the right decision makers and other influential industry insiders within legal cannabis, then send an email to advertising@mjtodaydaily.com. We'll send you an ad kit and walk you through all the options we have for reaching our very awesome audience. Again, that's advertising@mjtodaydaily.com. All right, time for the blitz. Friday was the last day on the job for San Diego District Attorney Bonnie Dumanis, who I've reported on in recent weeks for the charges her office is bringing against marijuana entrepreneur James Sladek and a host of his colleagues from the now shuttered legal business Midwest Distribution. Ms. Dumanis is retiring after 14 years as district attorney and was given, as tradition in cop and district attorney circles, a so-called walkout, where colleagues gathered to cheer as she left the building to go to her car at the end of the day. In a bit of brilliant event hacking, activists led by the local chapter of Americans for Safe Access joined in on Ms. Dumanis' walkout by bringing in a brass band and protesters who cheered loudly for her retirement. Swing over to Leafly to watch the videos for this one. The University of Maryland School of Pharmacy will soon begin offering online training to legal marijuana workers in the proper medicinal use of cannabis. The courses will be geared towards residents of Maryland who will be able to get certified with the state as an industry worker after successfully completing the online classwork. The program is being developed in conjunction with our friends over at Americans for Safe Access, who are killing it in the headlines department today. Bloomberg has another one of those stories that hints at broader societal changes when it comes to the acceptance of marijuana and marijuana use, with a look at how legal cannabis packaging has evolved in the few short years that the adult use industry has been a thing. This is another good one to click over for the full read. The nation of Uruguay is working to finalize their plans to legalize adult use marijuana, with projected prices for local consumers expected to be just over $1 a gram. But as Mary Jane is reporting, cannabis tourists shouldn't get too excited about the prospects of cheap South American marijuana, as the nation is taking a lot of steps towards making their industry accessible only to its citizens. Foreigners will be barred from buying legal marijuana entirely, and there will be no social clubs or public spaces where cannabis consumption will be allowed. The Las Vegas Sun has a good story up about the momentum that the state of Nevada has already built up in just a week towards embracing a more sane set of marijuana policies, with more than $3 million in adult use marijuana sold in the first 4 days of business, which puts the state on track to bring in tens of millions of dollars in tax revenue by the end of this year. If there's one thing we've seen in other legal states, it's that local politicians quickly get attached to new healthy forms of tax revenue, to say nothing of the suddenly relevant self-interests from burgeoning cannabis entrepreneurs and investors. The Metro West Daily News has nicely encapsulated the stagnated scene in Massachusetts in terms of their embrace of legal marijuana, with local towns and municipalities circling industry entrepreneurs and boosters trying to get their dispensaries and grow facilities established. That process has been anything but smooth in the Bay State and continues to evolve by the hour. Yet another good one to dive into if you're interested in Massachusetts. Our final story of the day has us wrapping up in my neck of the woods up here in Maine, with state legislators clearing the way for progress to be made on implementing adult use marijuana by passing a budget bill after a squabble with far-right Governor Paul LePage saw the state government actually shut down for a few days. State lawmakers are expected to resume work this week on hashing out details for how adult use sales will operate next year. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, MJ Today Media, and to all of our awesome Patreon listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the Patreon listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. Today's your day. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with Marijuana Today. Today.
One take, Shay. One take.